It's morning.
That was Robert Plant?
I don't know who it was. I think it was Festus McCracken of the All Night Pounders Mythical Ensemble. And the planet of never has been was.
Hi, I'm Ken, and this is
The Ken and Greg Show, live from Toledo, but it's really taped. But we're live right now.
That's true. That's true.
What do we got?
Well, the long-awaited and finally shipping to dealers, Gristle 90.
Gristle 90.
What was the holdup, Greg?
Well, you know, as I like to say, during COVID-19, release dates are really more of a suggestion. And so there was a suggestion of last summer that these would have been released. But then what happened? Well, global meltdown, if I may be so bold. So a lot of moving parts with this rascal. Of course, we've got the new Fishman and Gristle Tone P90s that are on board this beast. We actually had the prototype of this guitar kind of set in stone, like a year and a half ago?
These are prototypes.
Right.
Yes, because we have a set of prototypes here, and then there were prototypes sparsed between yourself and Fishman.
That's correct.
Everybody working towards the same goal.
Exactly. And so
nobody was more excited than we were because we were looking at them every day.
Yes. Yeah, and I was, you know, playing mine hither and yon, occasionally on social media and so on and so forth, and people would go, "When can I get that sweet, sweet guitar?" And I said, "When the time comes." But because of COVID-19, we don't know when that will be. Wow, that was low. Did you hear that? That's morning low.
Well, we reimagined a few different guitars to make this model work. So, and like I said, and we do that, of course, with all of our signature artists.
Yes.
You know, it's not about making just making a guitar and putting Greg's name on it. It's about making the guitar that Greg wants to play.
The tool.
And so there's a lot of things about this guitar that are unique to this guitar and this guitar only.
Absolutely.
The body shape. With the center ridge, of course, you may have seen a little bit of that out there in the world.
Right.
These ideas, but putting them all together here. And then this is a set neck 24 3/4 scale instrument with an ebony board.
That's correct.
And a tilt back headstock, but with Reverend's traditional headstock that we use on the E-Sider and whatnot.
Correct.
And so all of these things add up to, we can't just, let's just get these parts and slap this together.
Right.
No, this is a completely custom designed instrument. And then of course we have the Bigsby that we tweak here at the Reverend facility in sunny, beautiful Toledo, Ohio, so that these bad boys stay in tune.
Yes.
And then the pickups started from scratch.
Correct.
And that was the biggest step really that needed to be taken. And now we're talking about it now more, which is a lot of fun because Greg and I flew out to Fishman. We flew out to Andover, Mass.
That's correct.
With the mighty Joe Naylor.
Initially in January of 2020.
Yeah,
correct.
like 10 days before the NAMM show.
Right. And then my last trip before the COVID lockdown was to Fishman to do a little bit more voicing, and so that was my last trip prior to everything being shut down. And that was actually my first trip back, as I went out there a couple of weeks ago. It was my first time back on a plane, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But, you know, our goal was, it was an interesting thing, because I always liked P90s.
Yeah.
But they're noisy as hell. You had some gain, and, you know, seemingly more so than regular single coil pickups.
And after playing around with our Chargers and Club Kings and stuff, you like Joe's P90s.
Yes, Joe's P90s definitely had a thing. And I remember talking specifically with our buddy Lance out of Wildwood, who's always been a P90s man and loves the Reverend P90, right?
And plays with ultra high gain.
Right, indeed.
And
indeed
records and finds the sweet spot to stand in.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And we were talking, and he's like, "Please, for the love of God, do a P90 that sounds like the Reverend P90," because I've tried, because obviously at Wildwood he's encountering all manner of P90s and every kind of permutation of P90 fueled instruments. And I really liked the pickups that were in the prototype.
Yeah.
I was like, these sound great.
Yeah.
And so the whole process when we do the voicing of the pickup, like we did for the Tele pickups, the Gristle Tone T-style set, that's of course in the Gristle Master, the first iteration, is that we always start off with the idea of, boy, wouldn't it be great to come up with a noiseless pickup that sounds as good as the original iteration. And then by the time we're done voicing them, I prefer the sound of the Fishman pickup just because we have the ability to shape it any way we want to.
Yeah.
And so what I mean by that is by the time we were done voicing these, they sound like killer P90s, but they're a little more hi-fi. So when you go back to a regular P90 in comparison, they sound a little more dull and not quite. I mean, they still sound great, but these just have a thing that when you play them, like, oh man, why haven't I been playing these all along?
They still have the mids that everybody likes about P90.
Exactly, and they have like I wanted the bridge pickup to have that cool kind of squawk.
Yeah, which I mean, even in the, you can hear that.
Right. Exactly. It does the squawky thing, and I referred to the neck pickup as having kind of a glassy velvet to it. You know what I mean? It's got glass, but it's not as razor blades and hand grenades as some other single coil pickups can be, right?
Sure.
So that was the combination to me, was getting that neck pickup to have that. Of course, you turn the volume down, you don't lose any highs. And then the bridge pickup has that squawk.
Yeah.
That little heat. The match between those two pickups is killer.
So talk about the special features, the two, as Pete Anderson would say, the two little gags that you have built in.
The two little, well,
the control plate.
With all the Fishman Fluence pickups, there's two voices, and so we always try to, it's kind of hard for people to comprehend what that means because they think it's just adding more to the first sound.
Sure.
And that's not really what it is. It's almost like you've yanked the pickups out and put another set in because the way that these are made. So, and a lot of people, is it modeling? Is there some kind of modeling technology? So it's not. There's
modeling.
They're wound pickups, but instead of actually having the winding, there are these stacked aerospace circuit boards with this coil printed on it. So we can then take that coil. In and of itself, you just plugged it in, it would be like anemic and low volume. But when you have a preamp on board, it can shape those to be anything you want, right? Or within what it is. It can't be something it's not.
Right.
So
Right.
based on what it is, you can voice the how it sounds. You can't make a humbug, a single coil sound like a humbucker and vice versa. Right. So, but we were able to get two sounds that were complementary. That I basically wanted something that would give it just a little bit more gas in the second position. So we weren't really going after anything per se, but just something that was a little wound hotter, right? So if I'm in, and I hit this button, it's a subtle thing, but it's a great thing if you got, you're doing a lead, you got your gain box on, you just want a little something to push it over the edge and go for the jugular of the fine crowd, which makes them instantly start drinking more, which of course makes the owner of the establishment happier with you.
You're sustaining that note, and you're leaning back, and your ponytail is touching the stage. You're leaning back so
the
far.
pull through is just raging.
And then you think that maybe that note might be just dissipating a little bit, and you just touch that button. And
exactly, and away you go into the gates of Mordor and beyond, which is exactly where I like to dwell, ladies and gentlemen.
What about the other little gag?
So I love an out of phase sound, but the out of phase thing, what usually happens, I like the Peter Green, for lack of a better term, you know, for all you boomers out there, it's the Peter Green wiring. But basically what happens is when you're out of phase in the middle position on a conventional 2-volume, 2-tone control guitar, when you go back just a skosh on either volume, the out of phase gets a little not quite fully out of phase, and it gets this fatter, cool, still has that kind of duck-walky sound.
Yeah, but you're canceling out less of the frequencies.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
understood.
And so we wanted to have that, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool to have like a preset of that, so that when you went to that out-of-phase setting, you could actually go under the hood and go, maybe I just want it rolled back just a little bit to that sweet spot, instead of, you know, especially in this particular configuration where there's just one volume and you can't find that sweet spot because there's no 2 volumes for both pickups, right?
Right, sure.
So I wanted to have a preset for that. So on actually just the Reverend iteration of these pickups, because on the standalone stuff, it's going to be an extra feature. So, but it comes stock on the Reverend version of these pickups,
right?
Which is when you pop up on the tone control and you're in that middle position, you get. You get that out of phase sound, which is a little meatier.
Yes.
So if I'm on the neck pickup, when I switch, it's a subtle thing. Sounds totally usable and killer. Because I say usable because I think a lot of people, when they hear an out of phase sound on a record or something, like, oh, that's really cool. But when you actually play it, it's weird. It's a weird thing. And so when you're not quite fully out of phase, it's much less weird and more usable in reality, as opposed to a sound that you would tweak, especially in the studio, to sound good for the instant that you need it to sound good.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
Sure.
So I just find that it's a lot more usable and cool and more unique than like a 2 or a 4 position on a 3 single coil guitar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's more usable across the whole spectrum of gain.
Yes.
Too, because the traditional out of phase thing, in high gain, you really don't lose a lot of volume, but you sound like you have that wah-cocked thing, which is a great thing, you know, especially cutting through the mix in a 2 guitar band,
right?
You know, or whatever. But yeah, but this thing, even with clean tones or tube screamer type tones, or, you know, if you're using a line 6 modeler,
if you will, yes. But in the middle position, it still sounds good without the.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So again, turn down the volume. Second voice. Add some heat. Sounds killer and no buzz.
And before they ask in the comments, you were running through a 65 Twin with EV speakers.
That's correct, and I'm using my Gristle King pedal, the clean boost and the overdrive.
Yes, indeed.
Which are available at gregkoch.com. Wow, I don't know what that was. Did you see that laugh?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a villain from Scooby-Doo.
Hey, where can you get that hat?
Reverend.
Wow.
.com.
Yeah.
ReverendGuitars.com. Yeah. Am I right or am I right?
Ah, we're just plugging stuff now.
There's nothing wrong with it. You know what? We only do it not because we're hawking it, because people are going to ask.
Right.
And so we're simply
we're just
preemptively responding.
Yeah, we're facilitating. And of course, these are available at any authorized Reverend dealer, and we are doing our very best to fulfill these globally at the moment, which is a challenge because it's in demand.
That is correct. Should we talk a little bit about Colorgate?
Colorgate, yeah. Well, Reverend has a really cool turquoise that we've been marketing for years, and sometimes it goes a little blue, sometimes it goes a little green, and I think body woods have a lot to do with that. The density of the Carina has a lot to do with whether it's more bluish or more greenish, and sometimes we put that same color on a flame maple top and it looks completely different. So there's a lot of hues in this Reverend transparent turquoise.
Yes.
Well, Greg, when we originally started talking about this model, came to us with the Tosa turquoise.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful color, and we matched it for him and prototyped it, and it came out beautiful. And then when it came to production, some wires got crossed.
Right.
And we ended up with the Reverend turquoise on the first production run of these models, which was kind of like a happy accident because it really looks fabulous.
It looks great.
I don't have one here to show you because they were
snapped up.
Oh, they were snapped up.
So it's going to be a limited edition thing.
Yeah, there's only 36 of those out in the wild, and then of course we corrected our error, and the Tosa turquoise will be flooding the marketplace soon. Hopefully by the time you see this, those will also be available out there. So that's what happened with the Bradford Beach Blue, which is what we called it.
Indeed, that's correct. Out of Bradford Beach in beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Yes, and the blue hue refers to the gorgeous color of Lake Michigan up in your area.
That's correct.
Yeah. There
you have it.
There you have it.
Well, I guess we're getting the hook. Penny's giving us the hook.
Yes, she's giving us the hook. So, but I wanted to spend some time to talk about it. And I got one important question that I need to ask you about this guitar, because I haven't seen you in person since we've started shipping these.
Yes.
How'd we do?
It's fantastic.
There you have it.
I mean, it's it's one of those things where the reason why I wanted it is because I play different on the different scale, obviously, and I play different with the thicker, gain structure, if you will.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? So it provides me with a different approach that I play differently on it. So I still use the other Gristle Master as well. I switch off depending on what I'm doing. But I've been using it all the time. It sounds magnificent, and so it's a unique instrument. Yeah. It looks great. It's got unique properties as far as obviously the pickups are innovative and so on and so forth. So once again, it's a guitar that harkens back to iconic instruments, but at the same token, there's a lot of different stuff going into this thing to make a unique specimen, and I'm very proud to have it with my greasy name on the back. Can you dig it? Not greasy. It's a glorious quasi-Germanic.
We can dig it. Let's play them out.
Let's do it.
Everybody, I'm going to do that thing again because that was rad. Thank you.